Hello, everyone. This is Carolyn reading to you from the Cape Cod Times on Tuesday, February 10th. As always, today we'll start with the local weather. Today will be a cloudy day with highs of 34 degrees. Tonight will go down to 29 degrees. It will be overcast with a little snow, perhaps up to an inch or so. Tomorrow, Wednesday, February 11th, will be a mostly cloudy and breezy day. Highs will be 40 degrees and lows 23 degrees. On Thursday, it will be another mostly cloudy day with highs around 32 degrees and lows of 19 degrees. On Friday, we'll see times of clouds but also some sun. Highs 32 degrees and lows 20 degrees. And finally, on Saturday, it will be a mostly sunny day with highs of 35 degrees and lows of 24 degrees. The sun rose this morning at 6:43 a.m. and will set tonight at 5:08 p.m. And now, as usual, in other local news, we'll go to the lottery. For the numbers game at the midday drawing yesterday, Monday, February 9th, the winning numbers were 3036. Again, 3036. The evening drawing for yesterday, Monday, the 9th, 6211. Once again, 6211. The mass cash numbers for the midday drawing yesterday, Monday the 9th, were 1, 2, 10, 20, 26. I'll read that again. 1, 2, 10, 20, 26. The numbers for the evening drawing for yesterday, Monday the 9th, 10, 13, 17, 18, 23. Again, 10, 13, 17, 18, 23. The Lucky for Life numbers for yesterday, Monday, February 9th, were 11, 14, 23, 25, 42, with a lucky ball of 3. Again, that's 11, 14, 23, 25, the lucky ball of 3. And the Megabucks winning numbers for yesterday, February 9th, 3, 4, 14, 18, 24, 27. Once again, 3, 4, 14, 18, 24, 27. If you played any of these games, we, of course, wish you the best of luck. And now, as always, we'll go to our front page local stories. On the front page of today's Cape Cod Times, there are 3 large pictures. The first picture is of students playing instruments with the caption that says, "Beautiful music together." All eyes from the string section fix on conductor Nancy Torrente as she leads the orchestra during a rehearsal ahead of an afternoon performance on February 7th at Barnstable High School as part of the All Cape and Islands High School Music Festival. The second picture is also of students stretching, and the caption reads, "Members of the All Cape and Islands Music Festival Mixed Chorus limber up before starting rehearsal." Students were selected for the group from auditions last fall. The concert featured a concert band, orchestra, treble choir, and mixed chorus. And the final picture on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times is of students that are singing, and the caption says, "Voices come together as conductor Bill Cutler leads a rehearsal for the Cape and Islands High School Festival." And now for our first local news story. The story is entitled, "Thinking of Buying on Cape Cod? Here's How 2025 Prices Changed." This story is written by Beth McDermott. The number of homes sold in Barnstable County last year decreased slightly, while the median price for single-family homes increased and the median price for condominiums decreased, according to a community announcement. A total of 3,507 homes sold in 2025, including 2,753 single-family homes and 754 condominiums, according to the announcement. That is a decrease from 2024, when 3,564 homes, or 2,827 single-family homes and 737 condominiums were sold. The median sales price for single-family homes increased to $790,000 in 2025, up from $765,000 in 2024. The median price for condominiums decreased from $494,500 from $517,500. On average, sellers received 95.2% of the original list price in 2025. Sales pending at the end of 2025 were 2,750 for single-family homes and 789 for condominiums. This represents a 2.9% decrease for single-family homes and a 9.6% increase for condominiums compared to 2024. The number of homes for sale with a list price of less than $500,000 also changed significantly. In 2025, there were 209 single-family homes and 484 condominiums for sale in this price range. In 2024, there were 317 single-family homes and 407 condominiums, a 34.07% decrease and an 18.92% increase, respectively. The cumulative days on market for single-family homes increased by 16% in 2025, rising from 50 days in 2024 to 58 days. Condominiums saw a 30% increase from 40 days to 52 days. Inventory showed modest improvement, but the market remained tight, averaging just 2 months of supply in 2025. There were fewer desperate buyers and desperate sellers in 2025 than we saw at the market's frenzied peak. The market is not a pressure cooker anymore, and both buyers and sellers have time to make more thoughtful decisions about offers, said 2026 CCIAOR President Steve Seaver. Our next local news story today is entitled Hyannis Museum Hosting Free Fraud and Identity Theft Prevention Talk on February 12th. This story is written by Beth McDermott. A free seminar in Hyannis will offer tips on how to avoid financial scams and fraud. The JFK Hyannis Museum will host the event at 10:30 a.m. February 12th. It will be held at the Scudder Family Center for Civic Engagement, 397 Main Street, according to a community announcement. The program, presented in partnership with Cape and Coast Bank, will also be available via Zoom, according to the announcement. Paul Forney, Cape and Coast Bank's Information Security Officer, and Brendan Pike, Branch Manager, will lead the session. They will provide guidance on protecting against fraud, identity theft, and financial scams. Attendees will learn how to safeguard their personal and financial information, both online and offline. Participants will also receive complimentary bank giveaways and informational materials. Fraud schemes continue to evolve, and community members of all ages are looking for reliable ways to stay informed. Wendy Northcross, director of the museum, said in the announcement, "We're pleased to partner with Cape and Coast Bank to offer this timely and practical session." Admission is free, but registration is required. Those interested can sign up at www.jfkhyannismuseum.org/event/preventing-financial-scams. I'll read that one more time. www.jfkhyannismuseum.org/event/preventing-financial-scams. For more information about the program or other upcoming events, visit the JFK Hyannis Museum website at www.jfkhyannismuseum.org. And now we'll go to the local news stories on the Cape and Islands page. The first story is entitled, New Owner of Grumpy's Restaurant Vows Same Menu Vibe. This story is written by Denise Coffey, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. When Tom Holmes heard that Grumpy's Restaurant was going on the market, he knew he had to own it. The Dennis restaurant, serving breakfast and lunch, has been one of his favorites ever since his wife, Caitlin, brought him there on his first Cape Cod visit. "I'll never forget my first time here," he said in an interview February 2nd. "I fell in love with the feel of it. I view this as one of the most iconic spots on the Cape." The 98-seat restaurant, tucked along scenic Route 6A, offers breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. Two things set it apart, according to Holmes. Homemade corned beef hash is made fresh daily, and diners can order lunch items for breakfast. A cheeseburger at 6 a.m.? No problem. Holmes bought the business from James Manning Jr. on January 30th. The building itself was not included in the deal. Bass River Associates owns the property. Grumpy's Restaurant, a popular breakfast and lunch spot in 6A, is now owned by Tom Holmes. The previous owner, James Manning Jr., sold it after 35 years in business. That is the caption under a picture of the sign for Grumpy's Restaurant. Manning decided to put the restaurant up for sale last year after he and his wife returned from their first vacation in years. The family-owned and operated business has been serving breakfast and lunch year-round since 1991. The menu, the coffee, the staff, and the decor will remain the same, according to Holmes. Absolutely nothing will change, he said. We view ourselves as stewards of the legacy, Holmes said. This place is built on the regulars who show up all year. We intend that they feel that nothing at all has changed, from the staff to the menu to the feel when they walk in. Holmes had been on site for 3 days when the Times spoke with him. He was learning by watching and doing, he said. Every day felt like a 4-year education, he quipped. That education included setting up payroll and bank accounts and watching everyone, waitresses, busboys, and cooks, do what they do, including the chefs making the corned beef. The name will remain Grumpy's, but it will be run under Wicked Grumpy LLC, formed December 29, 2025. Holmes is the manager of Wicked Hospitality LLC, which is authorized to execute documents for Wicked Grumpy LLC, according to the Secretary of the Commonwealth. The sale was arranged by Chuck Carey of Carey Commercial. Melanie O'Keefe, Esquire of Lattanzi, Spalding, and Landreth, represented the seller. Our next story today on the Cape and Islands page, nicotine-free generation under review in 2 Cape towns. This story is written by Susan Vaughn, Cape Cod Times USA Today Network. A proposal called Nicotine-Free Generation, backed by a Barnstable County Tobacco Control Initiative, would ban the purchase of nicotine and tobacco products for all adults born on or after a certain date. But the Yarmouth Board of Health heard only public opposition to the ban at a recent meeting. The local proposal is based on a bill introduced by the State Senate in January 2025 that places a ban on the sale of all tobacco and nicotine products, including cigarettes, e-cigarettes, cigars, chewing tobacco, and nicotine, to anyone born on or after January 1st, 2006. The bill, which is number S.1568, does not take away access to nicotine products for current adults. Yarmouth and Barnstable are the only 2 Cape towns being asked to consider the nicotine ban proposal by Robert Collette, Barnstable County Tobacco Control Program Manager, as part of several proposed tobacco control regulations supported by a state grant. Total bans don't work, Attorney David Lawler of Hyannis said at the February 2nd meeting. representing Cape Cod Farms Shell Station and a mobile station and convenience store, both in Yarmouth. Lawler argued a ban would have a detrimental effect on businesses and hurt Yarmouth's taxes. He referred to prohibition, a since repealed constitutional amendment that prohibited the manufacture of alcohol and limited its sale, as an example of a ban failure. 20 towns in the state have passed the nicotine-free regulation, Yarmouth Assistant Health Director Barry Lewis said. Brookline was the first town in the state and nation to pass the ban in 2021 and set January 1st, 2020 as the cutoff date, and the ban has been passed in towns in other states as far as California. The Yarmouth Health Board had discussed the issue twice before the February 2nd meeting and was getting a lot of calls from all over the country about the proposed regulation. Board Chair Hillard Bosky said at the beginning of the discussion. As a result, he said the board would take comments on the subject that night only from town residents or people with direct connections to the town, while others could send comments to the board by email. Business. Unintended consequences could occur. Lawler's main argument was that the nicotine ban would have unintended consequences, such as creating a black market or sending people to other states or to neighboring towns if a ban is passed in only 1 or 2 towns on the Cape. This is an extremely regulated product, Lawler said, claiming that Massachusetts is among the top 5 states with the strictest tobacco regulations. The regulations in place are sufficient, he said. He acknowledged that everyone knows nicotine is addictive, but a ban doesn't work, and he said it should be rejected in its entirety. When Bosky asked about the ban's goals, Lawler said, "The goal is like utopia, a wonderful concept that doesn't make it, because of human nature." Lawler also expressed concern about the effect on youth who would travel to other places or find deviant ways to get the tobacco. Al Naum, owner of the 2 Yarmouth convenience stores, said businesses are not going to sell to minors, and adults can make their own decisions. He questioned why the ban should start in towns and in Yarmouth. What about education on nicotine use, says one resident. Ben Patel of Yarmouthport called into the virtual meeting saying, "This is bad and highly unconstitutional and is picking on certain industries." He said the ban would affect the town's economy and tax base and suggested the legislature should act on the proposal before setting a local policy. Lawler also said the regulation should be decided by the governor or the state legislature instead of towns. A woman who lives in Bourne but works for companies in Yarmouth questioned the ban because it, quote, is based merely on when a person is born, end quote, and instead she suggested the town focus on education about nicotine use. No members of the public spoke in favor of the ban at the meeting. Industry group responds, alleging discrimination. The New England Convenience Store and Energy Marketers Association, which represents thousands of convenience stores across New England, opposes the measure for several reasons, according to an email from the organization. It said the proposal haphazardly applies a discriminatory ban against the purchase of legal products by 21-plus adults, treating them differently from those born before them. It creates and supports a dangerous illicit market. It does nothing to address underage youth use of nicotine and tobacco products. For now, Yarmouth Board will continue discussion. Bosky responded to the comments saying, the conflict is health versus business. But as a physician, he said, smoking is the greatest preventable cause of death and is still the leading cause of death in the nation. It's an innovative approach, Bosky said, regarding the ban that would be instituted 1 year at a time and could prevent people from having an addiction. It sounds like a positive thing. Board member Lawrence Venezia, a veterinarian, said, "The public looks to us for guidance. It's a medical fact that 50% of chronic smokers are going to die from smoking." He said a ban could help some young people refrain from tobacco use and would be good for health services. After hearing an hour listening to comments February 2nd, Bosky said the Yarmouth Health Board would continue discussions and was not ready for a public hearing. Barnstable County officials learn about proposals. Collette presented the ban proposal along with several other proposed tobacco regulations to the Barnstable Board of Health in November and to the County Board of Regional Commissioners in December. Collette and County Health Director Jay Gardner told the commissioners the state-funded tobacco program will expand from retail compliance to school and community education, with the Cape's adult smoking rate at 12.3%. Commissioners noted at the December meeting that there will be industry and political resistance if towns pursue the approach. Barnstable Health Director Thomas McKeon said the decision on the nicotine ban would be made by the local health boards. Barnstable's public hearing on all the proposed tobacco and nicotine control regulations, including the nicotine ban, is on February 24th, will be at 3 p.m. at Barnstable Town Hall. Normally, at this halfway point in our reading, we would go to the obituaries. However, it appears there are no obituaries in today's Cape Cod Times. So we'll continue with reading of the front page national news stories. The first story in national news on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times is entitled, "Hundreds Protest ICE Outside Super Bowl." The story is written by Terry Collins, USA Today. They came, they marched, they chanted, all under a close watch. But it wasn't ICE agents who patrolled the streets on Super Bowl Sunday, as many had anticipated. Hundreds of people on February 8th took over a main thoroughfare less than 2 miles from Levi's Stadium, the site of Super Bowl 60, between the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots, railing against President Donald Trump's mass deportation efforts using Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol. Their voices got louder, echoing off nearby buildings while they chanted, "No ICE, no KKK, no racist USA. Dare to struggle, dare to win," and "It's our right to resist, it's our right to rebel." The protest capped a week-long slew of rallies, marches, and demonstrations in the area, all culminating in the biggest turnout on game day. "We deserve to be seen and heard," said Lila Salinas, age 22, an organizer with CSO San Jose, one of the protest's nearly 24 sponsors. "We need to show our presence on one of the world's biggest stages." Even though law enforcement officials recently confirmed there would be no ICE enforcement at any Super Bowl 60 event, authorities on foot, bikes, and horseback watched intently as they followed the protesters down Great America Parkway. No arrests were made during the almost 2-hour event, Santa Clara police said. Also watching was U.S. Representative Ro Khanna, Democrat, California, who spoke and walked with several protesters and told USA Today that ICE was not present in the area. Salinas used the opportunity to tell Khanna that he and his organization have tried many times to reach out to the lawmaker, seeking his involvement, and to ask him not to support funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Khanna told Salinas he remains a firm no on voting for additional Homeland Security funding. Current DHS funding was extended until February 13th, creating a deadline for Congress to negotiate a spending bill. Holding a sign that said "No Secret Police," Doug Wolf, age 60, of Boulder Creek, California, said he was pleasantly surprised by the protests' turnout. "We shouldn't have to be here, but you gotta be out here," said Wolf amid the chanting. "The Constitution and the Fourth Amendment are being shredded right in front of us. We have to take a stand." Ariel Ranker, a member of the nonprofit 50501 San Jose, agreed. "If we don't stand up and fight back, we may not have a democratic society anymore," Ranker, age 25, said. Hours before the protest, several activists gave out about 15,000 towels with the words "ICE out" to fans attending the Super Bowl, hoping they would raise them throughout the game and during Bad Bunny's halftime performance to protest the Trump administration's immigration enforcement operations. The gesture, called Flags in the Stands, was organized by Contra-ICE, a coalition of artists, musicians, and community organizers. One volunteer, Dan Reynolds, said he passed out more than 600 towels to fans. A handful of people politely gave them back to him. "That's not a bad percentage," Reynolds said as he ran out of his supply. "We hope they get put to good use." Our next national news story today is entitled "Little Consensus Seen After Gulf Renaming. New place names often take long time to stick." This story is written by Trevor Hughes, USA Today. From the bridge of their charter boat, High Class Hooker, Susanna Pope and her husband can look out at the sparkling 65-degree salt water off Key West, Florida, and envision customers fishing for marlin, wahoo, and mahi-mahi. Which fish will be biting? Will the blue skies and calm seas hold? And what the heck should they be calling the water they're fishing in? A year ago, President Donald Trump's edict to rename the Gulf of Mexico formally took effect, and the United States abruptly, legally anyway, began referring to it as the Gulf of America. Trump said the new name would better reflect and promote the body of water's important role in fishing, shipping, and oil and gas extraction. Critics noted Trump's decision had more than a whiff of colonial imperialism, where white conquerors renamed places to reflect their worldview and minimize those of people who called it something else. Trump declared the anniversary of the announcement, February 9, 2025, Gulf of America Day. But old habits do indeed die hard. Place naming experts say it's common for new names to take a long time to stick, particularly if the renaming was done abruptly and without public discussion. And a USA Today network survey of coastal communities from Florida's Key West, Destin, and Panama City to Duloc, Louisiana, and Corpus Christi, Texas, found there's little agreement about what exactly people are calling the body of water they live next to. In many cases, locals just call it the same thing they've always called it. "Down here, we just refer to it as the Gulf," Pope said. "It's like saying you're going into town. You don't have to say Key West, you just say town." In Corpus Christi, a vacationing Jeremiah Orta, age 22, said he's only heard people who are being edgy online use the new name. "I don't think in real life I've ever heard anyone say Gulf of America." Although these coastal communities are home to some of Trump's strongest supporters, few people said they simply fell in line behind the president's declaration. Many declined to speak publicly, citing concerns about potential political retribution if they were quoted picking one name over the other. In Sarasota County, Florida, Luann Wood, who has lived on the Gulf for 41 years, says she sticks to tradition. As someone in the real estate industry, most of the people that want to move here are older, and it can get confusing to call it anything other than what they've heard their whole lives, the Gulf of Mexico, she said. Everyone in my life, and almost everyone I know, calls it the Gulf of Mexico. That's the only name for it. In Dulac, shrimp boat captain Jared Thoreau said he wasn't inclined to consider using the new name. More important to him, he said, was quickly unloading 318 100-pound boxes of frozen shrimp so he could get back onto the water while the fishing remained good. I really don't give a blank what they call it, he said. It'll always be the Gulf of Mexico to me. However, some take pride in the Gulf of America name. In Destin, real estate agent Marianne Windes said most people just say the Gulf. But aboard her husband's charter fishing boat Sunrise, it's the Gulf of America. We've got the Gulf of America flag flying on our boat, Windes said, and they wear Gulf of America t-shirts. The company's Facebook page, though, advertises charter fishing trips on the Gulf of Mexico. Piloting a boat running supplies to a bridge under construction at the south end of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, Mike Popeye Dearden said not only did the name change make sense, but it's part of a human tendency to change geographical names throughout history. He thought opposition to the change came from people disliking Trump, not the name itself. Did you know the Gulf has enjoyed 9 official names in its history? Gulf of Mexico may have been the longest, but it's had 9 in its history. They change the maps and get over it, the self-described history buff and trivia geek said. William Shakespeare said, "What's in a name?" Plenty, said place-naming expert Derek H. Alderman, a chancellor's professor at the University of Tennessee. It's easy to dismiss the Gulf name change as a stunt, Alderman said. But Trump's decision served far deeper purposes. First, he said, it was an early shot at Mexico, a longtime Trump target. Second, Trump has long understood the power in branding and how names shape perception. And third, it allowed the president to set out, very early in his second term, the muscular go-it-alone approach we've seen unfold since, Alderman said. The president recognizes the power of names, the power of brands, and he's extended that in a geopolitical sense, applied some of that same logic to the geopolitical realm, he said. He was not simply changing the name. He was actually enacting a different worldview that said we're going to be signaling in a nationalistic, almost imperialistic way. America is absolutely first, and it's all about American interests. Alderman, who served on the Federal Advisory Committee on Reconciliation in Place Names during the Biden administration, wondered what impact the name change will have on high school students learning geography, history, and social studies. For generations, America's borders have remained unchanged. But Trump has said he wants to expand the country's boundaries. Naming and claiming the Gulf is a step in that process, Alderman said. Aboard the Louisiana-based shrimp boat Ensley, Captain Easton Rodriguez said that no matter what people call the Gulf, he just wished more Americans would buy from shrimpers like him instead of choosing cheaper imported shrimp, often farmed under unhealthy and dangerous conditions. They have the guys who call it the Gulf of America, but it's not changing nothing because they still buy imports, he said. And next we'll go to a Super Bowl related story. Budweiser hits #1 again with Super Bowl ad icons. This story is written by Gabe Laches, USA Today. Budweiser left nothing to chance in taking home its record 10th win in USA Today's ad meter contest. The King of Beers was once again the king of Super Bowl Sunday commercials, easily outscoring Lay's in balloting after the Seattle Seahawks trounced the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 60. In American Icons, Budweiser pulled out all the stops to mark the brewing company's 105th anniversary, while strongly tying itself to the United States' 250th. Naturally, its not-so-secret weapon, the iconic Clydesdale, was front and center. Mix in the birth of an American bald eagle, nursed into adulthood by the caring steed until it soared freely on its own, picking up the pace in time with Leonard Skinner's Free Bird, and the 60-second spot broke through the competition, typically loaded with nascent brands and nostalgia-fueled celebrity spots. That's what we wanted to bring to life, this idea of celebrating two icons, the Budweiser Clydesdale, the American bald eagle, at the same moment. Kyle Norrington, Anheuser-Busch's chief commercial officer, told USA Today before the Super Bowl. Norrington noted that Freebird was the first and only choice for the soundtrack. There's not a lot of dialogue, so Freebird really carries this narrative in an epic way. In a sense, the proven formula stood out even more against an occasionally dark ad lineup heavy on artificial intelligence, including some fratricide among the brands, surveillance for your puppy, and de-aging technology used on beloved stars of yore that fans on social media found unsettling. Budweiser claimed its first ad meter crowns in 1999 and 2000, before yielding to its Anheuser-Busch cousin, Bud Light, in 5 of the next 6 years. Bud prevailed 5 more times between 2007 and 2015, then had a 10-year drought before the Clydesdale returned to the winner's circle in 2025 with first delivery. This time, it scored a 4.0 out of 5, defeating Lay's Last Harvest, which chronicled the emotional final lap for a potato farmer. Pepsi's The Choice, which co-opted Coca-Cola's iconic polar bear, was third at 3.48, with Dunkin's Goodwill Dunkin', fueled by both the 1997 Ben Affleck, Matt Damon filled and 90s area NBC comedy icons, came in fourth at 3.48. And now our next story in health-related news. Dr. Oz begs vaccine use among measles outbreaks. This story is written by Sarah Monusco, USA Today. Dr. Mehmet Oz is calling on Americans to get the measles vaccine as cases spread across the United States. Take the vaccine, please. We have a solution for our problem. Not all illnesses are equally dangerous, and not all people are equally susceptible to those illnesses. But measles is one you should get your vaccine for. Oz, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator, said on CNN's State of the Union on February 8th. Measles outbreaks have infected more than 2,600 people since the beginning of 2025, with cases in all but 6 states, jeopardizing the nation's status as a measles-free country. Measles was eliminated in the United States by 2000, but has resurfaced with periodic outbreaks, mostly among people who are not vaccinated. This year alone, the highly contagious virus continues to spread, with 733 confirmed cases in 20 states as of February 5th, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. But state health officials are reporting even higher case numbers. South Carolina's Department of Public Health, for example, is reporting 920 cases of measles in the state as of February 3rd. Children typically get the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, or MMR, in 2 doses as part of routine immunizations. Children get the first MMR dose at 12 to 15 months and the second dose at 4 to 6 years. But vaccine rates have declined in recent years. Vaccination coverage among U.S. kindergartners has dropped from 95.2% during the 2019-2020 school year to 92.5% in the 2024-2025 school year, well under the threshold necessary for effective herd immunity, according to the CDC. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., a longtime vaccine skeptic, said last year that he encourages people to get vaccinated against measles. We encourage people to get the measles vaccine, Kennedy told CBS News in April 2025. The most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine, Kennedy wrote in a post that same month on the social media platform X. And now we'll finish things up today with Today in History. Today is Tuesday, February 10th, the 41st day of 2026. There are 324 days left in the year. On this date in 1763, the French and Indian War, also known as the 7 Years' War, ended when France, Great Britain, and Spain signed the Treaty of Paris. On this date in 1846, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as Mormons, began their migration from Illinois to Utah. Led by Brigham Young, they sought to escape the persecution and prejudice that had followed them since the church's founding. On this date in 1962, the United States and the Soviet Union exchanged captured spies at the Glienicke Bridge that connected East and West Berlin. The country returned intelligence officer Rudolph Abel to the USSR, while Francis Gary Powers, the captured pilot of a downed U-2 spy plane, was returned to the Americans. At Checkpoint Charlie, student Frederick Pryor was also returned to the U.S. On this date in 1966, Ralph Nader testified before Congress about safety concerns in the auto industry. His book, Unsafe at Any Speed, The Designed-in Dangers of the American Automobile, had been an indictment of automakers he accused of shuffling safety down their list of priorities as they sought to deliver greater power and style to drivers. This has been Carolyn reading to you from the Cape Cod Times on Tuesday, February 10th. I hope you all have a wonderful day.